Welcome into the CHGO Bears podcast on an NFL Owners Meetings Monday with Hoge in attendance. Yours truly, the great at the Carman, alongside the even greater Nicholas Moreano on a Monday with Hoge, our hero, talking to Ryan Poles, making it happen. Shout out to everybody who has joined us, new diehards. We'll get to you a little bit later. And yes, we are rapidly approaching 53,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you are new to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tons coming up today, as you know, right now with Hoge. And we have a Twitter poll out there today, Nick, do we not?
We do, and the Twitter poll. And it's got some votes already, some strong opinions. Should Ryan Poles be attending Drake May's Pro Day with the thinking emoji? So
head on over to CHGO_Bears to vote on Twitter. And by the way, follow that account or else we will follow you and hunt you down. All right, let's bring in our guy from the owners' meetings in his sunglasses, looking just so adorable. I can't even handle it. What's up, Adam Hoge? Busy morning for you. Up and early tweeting, up and talking to Ryan Poles. You're a busy man. Great to have you. Welcome.
Yes, running on adrenaline here. Nice little flight that got delayed 3 hours last night, so got the 2.5 hours of sleep before Ryan Poles talked at 7 a.m. Eastern, which is 6 a.m. back in Chicago. Nice and early, but a lot of good stuff that we're going to talk about here. And there's been some other things going on, too, of course, with the rules. That's a big focus of these owners' meetings every year, so looking forward to getting into all of this. But, yeah, Ryan Poles talking for the first time since the Justin Fields trade.
So World's Smallest Violin is playing for you with the palm trees behind you and everything else that you got going on. You're having a great day, and I'm slumming here with Nick and Steven and Kevin and Jake. And we're having a great time. We don't miss you at all, and we're not jealous. All right, so where do you want to start? You talked about Justin. I have a lot of thoughts about this. I'm on both sides of the coin. Like, I could really have fun with it or be serious. So I'm not sure what's going to come out of my mouth here. But why don't you lead into what you were thinking when Ryan was talking about Justin and making the trade?
Well, first, let's just hear from him. I mean, I feel like we've said our piece on all of this plenty of times, and Ryan Poles is the one that hasn't talked publicly since the Combine about everything that's gone down. So, he got hit with a bunch of questions, including, just what it was like having to make this trade, what his feelings were like, how Justin handled it, how teammates handled it, and then also the compensation. So it's all in here. We kind of put this all together for you guys to be able to hear Ryan Poles in his own words.
Yeah, there were other teams. The Steelers were just an opportunity where it was almost like more of a, they have a starter with Russ, but there was more of an open competition, it felt like, from my perspective. Where there are other opportunities where there were some, quarterbacks that were either veteran guys or young guys that would already been paid. So it would have been a tougher situation for him to get on the field.
How did the market shape up in the weeks leading up to that? I know that there are people who look at the return and go, "Oh, it's not a ton," but yeah, I imagine that. Did you expect it to be more, kind of when the preseason or when the off season started?
Yeah, it was a little bit of surprise, but as you do research and you have conversations, you have to kind of adjust to the market. But I think just with, how other teams are built, because if you look at the beginning, there's probably teams that are looking at the draft for guys to fill in. On the back end, the playoff teams probably have someone in place. So it really was a smaller pool, of teams.
Before the trade is finalized, was there like a decision day before that where you feel good about these rookie quarterbacks to move on from Justin?
Yeah, we had been putting that information together all along, just trying to measure how we wanted to go about doing it. I know there's a lot of talk about, having Justin there and drafting a quarterback as well. We had a lot of deep conversations, and I got some really good guys on my staff to really dig into how that would play out in terms of the locker room. How would that play out with a young guy that needs a lot of reps? How would that play out with just the command and leadership that you need in that position? And we felt like it was best to probably move on and allow a young quarterback to come in and work into that role.
How did he handle the news?
He was positive. His tone was good. I think what was important for Flus and I is to really express to him, although this is a really tough decision, like how much he means to the city of Chicago, our fan base, and us. I thought he was a class act in how he handled the ups and downs of the start of his career. But he sounded good. The tone was good.
When did the Steelers emerge as the best trade partner? Is that after the Pickett move, or is that in that time frame, I guess?
In that time frame, yeah.
Ryan,
over the
Cole
last
Kmet
week.
said that Flus called him about
Yeah.
the Justin trade. How important was that for you guys to communicate with key leaders on the team? And then what type of feedback did you guys get as a result of that communication?
Yeah, we try to do a really good job communicating with our players. We expect the same for them. Like if they're going through something or they have a problem with something, we want them to come to us and communicate that rather than keep it in. So we thought that transparency was good. Let them hear from us first. You could tell they really appreciated it, and it was almost like, hey, you don't need to do this, but we feel like we should. And I think that goes a long ways with our guys. There's a second part of your question?
What was the feedback
Yeah.
that they had in terms of losing Justin, I guess, and moving on?
Yeah, I think DJ's quote there, it's, business is a business or something like that. I think they understand that there is a business part to it, and it's not something where just because you trade someone doesn't mean you don't like them or don't appreciate them. They understood that we thought that was the best move for where we're at.
Why do you think it didn't work out?
There's a lot to unpack there. I think, if you go through the whole deal, like in the very beginning, I think that was a choppy start, rookie year. And then when I came in, we had some cleaning up to do, which then delayed another year of adding talent and supporting. And then just in terms of the game, I feel like he was making strides and improving. The problem is, and it's really, and that's what I try to explain, it wasn't Justin versus one of these rookies, it's really the timeline and how much runway that you have, because really to get a guy up off the ground, you need to support him with as much talent as possible. And then that flips, because then they take so much cap space, which is a good thing if you get to that point, but then they have to be the reason you start winning. So then it's harder to add the talent, around them. And you can look around the league and it happens a lot. And really the teams that can sustain success through that period, I think, do a really special job.
So that's part one of Ryan Poles' conversation with the media and Adam Hoge today. There's a lot to jump into there too, but I'd like to underline first off, Hoge, is that Poles agrees with me is that he was improving, he was getting better, and I thought the last part was the biggest thing. The reason you are winning. He never got to that, and I think that's ultimately why they made the deal. I don't know, what was your biggest takeaway? That was some really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you're the same guy that believed what Mike Tomlin had to say about Kenny Pickett. So you can keep believing what you want to believe. Kenny Pickett now plays for a different team. Look,
Underline.
I think there was a lot.
Poles, Team Carm, not Team Hoge, even though you guys clearly had a lovely interaction. Go ahead.
That Kenny Pickett thing I'm going to hold against you pretty much anytime I want to make a point for the rest of eternity.
That's fine. I'll just hold that quote.
A lot in there because look, it almost sounds like every point we have talked about for the last few months that sort of spit out there by Ryan Poles. They looked at every scenario, right? And even the idea of keeping Caleb Williams and Justin Fields together. And it's just like the more and more they talk this stuff out, they came to the same conclusion, which is the conclusion that ended up happening, that they should trade Justin Fields. And you heard them, I think, especially that stuff towards the end, the timeline. It really does make a difference. The contract resetting at the quarterback position, being able to do the things with Caleb Williams that they were never able to do for Justin Fields. And I understand fans are mad about that, but Ryan Pace's mess was not Ryan Poles' mess. And by the time Ryan Poles cleaned up that mess, the clock had run out. And it just wasn't realistic to keep going forward with the resources that they would have had to have spent around Justin Fields to keep going down that route with no guarantee versus what they're going to try to do with Caleb Williams, which also has no guarantee, but at least has 3 more years of runway. You heard that word, runway. And I think that's a key way to think about this. So, it's unfortunate how it all ended, but it makes sense now. And by the way, we got to talk to Mike Tomlin. I'll just summarize that stuff for you because we don't have that audio to play, but the situation, Mike Tomlin is obviously going to say all the nice things about Justin Fields. Now he's a quarterback, and he believes, as he put it, there's a lot of meat left on that bone. Mm-hmm. He oozes with talent. We all agree with that, right? No doubt about it. But for now, and I appreciate listening to Mike Tomlin because he's really good with the way he explains things. And they believe that they need to have a clear-cut QB1, at least for the offseason. And he almost worded that way. It's like, for now, while we're not at work, it makes sense to have a guy who's clearly number 1 on the depth chart. But he said they're not opposed to competition. So Justin Fields, whether they declared an open quarterback competition or not, is going to have a chance to show the Steelers that he's a better option than Russell Wilson. And honestly, I think that talent that he possesses is going to be too much to keep him off the field entirely, even in like some sub packages if Russell Wilson's the quarterback. So it'll be interesting to follow all that from Pittsburgh this year. But it was also nice hearing Ryan Poles, say his piece on it, talk for the first time since Justin Fields was traded. And I think basically everything he said, made a lot of sense. A lot of the stuff that has been talked about exhaustively, but everybody needed to hear it from the GM. So, you got to hear it.
Yeah, and Adam, what did you make of the response that he had to your question about players or the GM reaching out, Eberflus reaching out to the players to then get their response on, what was happening with Justin Fields in that whole situation?
Uh-oh. Slight freezage of Hoge. While Adam Hoge unfreezes himself.
It's so tropical there. Sometimes the Wi-Fi.
It's a good solid freeze. Orlando, right? That's where Hoge is frozen. He's frozen in time at Disney World. How beautiful is that? Yes. Hey, while we're unfreezing Hoge, let me do you the favor of telling you that even though it is Monday at what time is it? Noon 15.
Yep.
Noon 15. There is no better time than to dial up yourself a beautiful, delicious Miller Lite. Hey, what are we going to do with the picks, by the way, coming up here? I'm not sure. It's anyone's guess. We've got some wild selections over there, but there's a selection that every football fan can share, and that, of course, is the ice-cold Miller Lite. Send Hoge one right now. That would be delicious. He needs it. Draft has changed. Miller Lite, though, still the perfect beer for the draft. And don't forget, Miller Lite, a proud sponsor of the Bears. Bear on down. You are drinking a bear-oriented. Come on. How beautiful is that? Miller Lite knows the beer lovers want their light beer to taste like actual beer. That's why they brew a light beer that's light on calories but not on taste. All right. Till kickoff comes around again. Listen up here. Enjoy the bear and the beer. Excuse me. That tastes like the season. Miller Lite, Grace Taste, 96 calories. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football. It's a great way to support the show, great way to get your Miller Lite. Or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces.
Check out Miller Lite, and then you got to check out Empire. And with Empire today, you get shop-at-home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low-price guarantee. Empire today is the best place to get new flooring. So, of course, they are going to have copycats, but they can't beat Empire on the quality, service, speed. So, look, those other companies will advertise low-quality products that they simply won't carry. They won't promise the lowest prices because anyone who does that is putting flooring in your home that wouldn't put it in theirs. And look, they keep shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Empire's philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out on the selection floor is as important as what they put in, and they have this awesome virtual floor designer, which is a great way to see how new floors will look in any space. It's super simple. Just snap a picture and instantly see how new floors will look in your room. But first, what you have to do is schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 discount when they use the promo code CHGO. Restrictions apply. See EmpireToday.com/CHGO for details.
All right. As we get Hoge back in here, things that we appreciate about Ryan Poles. Number one, his honesty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, his strategy. Let me go over to Matt Eberflus's house and call Justin Fields together. We are in this together. Let's tell him, both of us, how much we appreciate him. So Fields doesn't have to take multiple calls. We're just going to make one call with the two of us. And he said, and Justin took it. I think whatever word he used, I'll use well, because Justin Fields is a professional. Because Justin Fields probably knew exactly where this was going, which is why we saw the patterns of things that he was doing, taking vacation, unfollowing the Bears.
But they also knew how much he meant to that franchise, too. And, and I like that even with Poles going to Eberflus's house and not just having that phone call. It's like, this is a big moment. It's a big step in the franchise's movement to a new direction. So I do appreciate that from Ryan Poles, just being transparent with the whole situation.
Now, let's go into the actual home, right? Poles has a son and a daughter, right? And his son, which we learned today, has Fields' jersey up in his room. Young Mason does. And I've done a very odd day of just trying to figure out. I was trying to figure out, well, how old is Mason? Because, that can be, if you're 4, I think it's different than if you're 9. Like if you're 9, 10, 11, like you're sort of already in your formative years and it's like really on your heart. But so I ended up watching Ryan Poles' wedding video, which is very weird.
Crazy.
But I recommend it. It is YouTube available. And Poles just shows this creative, fun side of him. But can you imagine, hey, young son, did you do your homework? You didn't? Well, I traded Justin Fields. I mean, how did that conversation go? Like and then the other side, it's like really real. Like this kid loves Justin, I assume. He's got the jersey up. And you got to sit him down, and that's not an easy conversation. That's a tough dad moment, man.
That's a tough moment for him. Hopefully, you can find new idols, and Caleb Williams can be that next jersey that maybe little Mason, right, gets. And I mean, Jordan's in too. She's a football fan, right? Yeah, true.
That is so, but he let you behind.
How difficult this really was.
Yeah. He's letting you into the life that is Ryan Poles, as a dad, as a football guy with a son who loves Justin Fields.
And I get it. Like, a lot of people love Justin Fields. That's why this move was tough for not just only the Poles family, but for the fan base itself. So it's like, I get it. It's a tough decision, but a decision that needed to be made for all the reasons that Ryan Poles talked about in the video you just watched. And it wasn't easy. I can't imagine if I was in those shoes, if I had that Fields jersey at that age. Oof.
Right, you didn't eat your peas at dinner. Just traded your idol. Should have had your vegetables, Nick.
Damn it,
young Nick. That is that. I appreciated him sharing that level of what was going on and how much he's letting you know how much it meant to him and meant to his family, and that it wasn't easy. We're still obviously working to get Hoge back up here.
Yeah, he'll be calling. I just talked to him. We'll call. He's about to call back in. You want to knock out some super chats in the meantime?
No, we're good. I got plenty of things that I want to get to as we wait for him. So just underlining as we move off of Justin, just the last couple of things. He's asking about the trade. The Steelers felt like more open competition. Okay, so that underlines that he's looking for the
do right by Justin.
Do right by Justin. Get a good landing spot. He was a little bit surprised by the market. The way he answered that question, Carm reading into it, he didn't seem all that surprised by the market. I don't know. Is Hoge ready? Can we try him?
Yeah, he's ready.
He looks frozen to me, but we'll try him anyway. Okay. Adam Hoge, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Sorry, guys. The NFL is a multi-billion-dollar business, but As we know from many hits with Nicholas Moreano at Soldier Field, for some reason, it just
Wi-Fi.
I don't know. It is what it is. I'm here. I will fight through this as much as possible.
Well, while you were gone, we were just moving through the last part of Fields, and like we can wrap up with this one. When he was asked like, "Where are you surprised by the market?" The way I read his answer was he wasn't all that surprised at all, actually. Like he was maybe a little bit disappointed, I'm sure, but it didn't feel like he was completely blindsided by it. He said a little bit.
Yeah, no, they were surprised. They were surprised. I think that and I've had this mentioned to me a couple times in the last couple of weeks. I think the expectation, not just with the Bears but across the league, we talked about it many times, was the Sam Darnold trade that was made a couple of years ago. I think the part that everybody maybe underestimated, including ourselves, was that Sam Darnold trade sucked.
Yeah, right. Thank you. I was saying at the time. Yeah, horrible trade.
And so I honestly think that hurt. I think that hurt the market for Justin Fields. So, and then the other thing is, let's squash this whole idea that the Bears left a lot on the table by trading him to the Steelers instead of somewhere else. There were other offers on the table. There was at least one that was a little bit better, slightly better. But we're talking like around or this year versus next year. Nobody left on the table massive draft capital to do right by Justin Fields. The market was what it is.
Yep, the market exactly was what it is. As let's battle through the Hoge cat right now, and should we tee up a second?
I can still hear you guys.
Okay, let's tee up cut 2 from polls, and we talked about Fields. I can handle this. This is basically everything that Ryan Poles had to say as we move forward about Caleb Williams. So this is Poles talking about where we're at with the quarterback that basically everybody knows the Bears are going to draft number 1 overall. So here's Poles on Caleb.
Yeah, I will say when you talk to his teammates, they don't like him. They love him. His leadership, how he brings people together. He's intentional with his leadership. Same goes with the staff. I'm having a hard time finding a person that doesn't like him or even love him and thinks, that he can reach the highest limits. So the feedback's been good.
Do you have the top 30 for him planned already?
Yeah.
Do you know when that's going to be?
It's going to be that first week of April. That's when our first big wave comes in, and he'll be a part of that.
Having spent so many days out in LA and a big contingent from the team there,
Yeah.
what do you hope to glean when he comes to Alice?
Just another touch point, continue to, and I've learned this over the years when guys come in, you can really do some installations, take a break, and then have them reinstalled back to you just in terms of recall. Build relationships with coaches, make sure that there's compatibility there.
Since he didn't give medical at the combine, will that be the one chance you guys will have to get that information as well?
Yep.
How much are you maybe comparing and contrasting him still with maybe the other quarterbacks, McCarthy, May, Daniels, or is it now every information we could get?
No, we're going to continue the process. Like I said, we're going to go to LSU right from here. We'll continue to evaluate everybody. I do think, as I said before, like we gain clarity as we move forward, which is a good thing. But we also want to make sure that we continue and finish the process with the rest of the class.
North Carolina, too?
Can't make that one, but our quarterback coach and some of my executives will be there.
Ryan, when you say he's intentional with his leadership, what's an example of things that you've heard or seen that tell you that?
Yeah, we look for guys that can bring others around. So the cool thing, there's pros and cons of this NIL setup. But the cool thing is you do have some resources to, take your line out to dinner. You see the Christmas gifts that the NFL guys do. So really bringing those guys together, spending time, creating that bond is really what you're looking for in that position, and he's done that.
What was he like at dinner the couple nights before his pro day with his teammates then?
Yeah, really mature. One of my guys kind of bumped me on it, which I think is rare these days for a 22-year-old. He never touched his phone. So really intentional with his conversations and, talking about his interest and things that he likes to do. So really good touch point.
Who was at the dinner? 1 month from today. Do you know when, or at least ideally, when you would have your decision made about who you're taking?
I don't right now. Hopefully it just hits me.
How different is it working with a player or getting to know a player in this NIL era, and then specifically Caleb, somebody who does not have an agent?
Yeah, with the NIL deal, again, there's pros and cons. I'm starting to learn that I think for us, when we gather information, it's actually pretty helpful. It puts these guys in the spotlight, it gives them more responsibility, it forces them to prioritize money, business, football, school. How do they handle that? What kind of structure they put around them to make sure that they're making good decisions? They have people that can say, no, like, that's not going to fit in my timeline. So I think there's some positives there, and I'm picking that up.
And then him not having an agent, is that something that I guess you guys know now, so you can kind of prepare for that? Is that unique as well?
Yeah, unique situation. I understand it though. So with the draft process, it doesn't make it too difficult. There's some little things, communication and just understanding the landscape of that. That's probably one of the more negative things. But there's probably a lot of pros too in his situation specifically.
Ryan, you've been very forthright in expressing your confidence in Flus. When you look at the quarterback development part of it specifically, what gives you the most confidence in him and the group he's assembled to oversee the development of a young quarterback?
Yeah, I would say first, I don't think everyone really gets a good view of it. Flus does an amazing job building relationships, and I think whoever that is, like, there's going to be a relationship where your head coach has your back, and I think that's important. The other piece is just very forward thinking. We both are in terms of creating structure to make sure with a young quarterback, especially in our market, that we do set him up for success. I know for sure that the roster is going to do that. It's important to me to make sure that there's enough around where he can get off to a fast start and build confidence. But at the same time, Shane, Flus, Carey, like, they have a good plan too. We have Thomas Brown, who's in Carolina, so he's had some exposure to, a high pick, early. So I think really collectively the whole group's going to do a really good job.
What resonated you about Shane when you guys were obviously making your decision on OC? What made him stand out?
Love his background. His time with Pete, his time with Sean McVay, time with Bill Belichick. I know for myself, when you get exposed to many different ways of doing things, you can kind of take the pros of those things and kind of make it your own and kind of ditch the cons or the things that don't work really well in those systems. So a ton of knowledge. I think the biggest thing, and we sit down with these young guys, his ability to communicate and teach is outstanding. It's special to be a part of and watch. So really like Shane, and I think we're in good hands there.
You mentioned that. Oh, go ahead.
Should like to have more than 4 picks. But if you end up staying there, when you compare that to the percentage of holes left to fill in your roster, if you have to stay with 4, are you comfortable that you can fill the remaining holes in your roster between that and the next wave of picks?
I do. We've looked at that. If we don't move at all, I think that's 25 picks in 3 years, which is over 8 and some change. So I like where we're at there. On top of being set up next year to have a pretty good setup as well. And I think it matches the draft. I think a lot of guys went back to school this year. I think you're going to see a significant drop off. Hopefully some guys squeak through, but it actually, the way we're set up in the draft this year actually pairs up really well with how I think it's going to play out.
So that was polls on both Caleb and a little bit on the draft. Interesting at the end there, talking about he's not really worried about the limited amount of picks they have this year, because if you go for a 3-year span, it's 25 picks. He's doing the math for you, which Greg Braggs, who's not on the show today, would be unable to do, which is a little over 8 a year. Shout out Braggs. As we bring Hoge back in here, what stood out for you in the Caleb conversation?
Yeah, I think it's how very plainly Ryan Poles is talking about how easy Caleb Williams is to like, how his teammates don't have anything bad to say about him, how staff at USC doesn't have anything bad to say about him. I think that's a very important messaging remember, like, we don't usually hear general managers talk about potential prospects in the draft so openly and honestly. Now only one team has the number one pick. The pick here at number one seems to be relatively obvious. But, that definitely stood out to me. Not only what he had to say, kind of confirming a lot of our reporting along the way, but also just the fact that he was willing to talk about it. And then that little tongue-in-cheek moment when he was asked, do you know who you're picking? And he was like, no, hopefully it just hits me. Like, we all know where this is going. We all know where it's at. The Bears aren't really allowed to come out and say who they're picking. And also it'd be silly to do so because they still have to do their due diligence. God forbid something happened along the way here in the last month that would force them to pivot, which is why he's still going to Jaden Daniels' pro day on Wednesday straight from Orlando before he goes back to Chicago. But he is skipping at least the UNC pro day, Drake May, where, they'll still send staff and Kerry Joseph, but Ryan Poles won't be there.
Adam, what did you make of Poles' answer about Eberflus and the confidence he has in him being able to, one, build around a young quarterback?
Yeah, it's an interesting answer, but I'm not surprised by it. The idea that they believe that Eberflus is really good at relationship building. And I don't know if you guys disagree. I mean, do we have an example that says otherwise? I mean, I've sensed a little bit of joking and eye rolling when it comes to his nicknames that he has for players. But that's pretty much it, right? Like, guys seem to respect Matt Eberflus, and I think that was a big reason why he was retained. I heard Caleb Williams last week in Los Angeles talk about Eberflus, and he seemed to have a pretty good grasp on the whole situation with the Bears. And I think that time last week in LA with the coaching staff was probably very valuable, and he'll get more of that when he comes to Hallis Hall, which sounds like it'll be about 2 weeks from right now, the first week in April, and they can check that last box. But, I mean, I think it's a fair question because that seems to be the one lingering thing publicly that fans are questioning. Yeah, but you didn't bring in an offensive head coach. If the head coach can be the head coach and he's good at relationships, then I think that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, just to do what I do and not make this a Matt Eberflus love story here, I'm sure you can find people that might not completely sing the praises of Flus. Deontay Foreman, I'd be curious what he would say. I'd even be curious what Darnell Mooney would say. If you talk to some of the assistant coaches who have left here, Luke Getsy,
Janoko,
Andrew Janoko, I doubt that they're going to be telling you the greatness of Matt Eberflus, but it is interesting that Poles is leaning on the fact that he's going to be able to build a relationship. Plus, I think the guys that he has around him, as far as teaching, like he's underlined that Shane's a great teacher. So, I mean, the bottom line is that Matt Eberflus has built a great relationship. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just, like, one real human nature aspect of what you just said, though, like, that's every position of leadership. Like, you're not going to hit it off with every single coworker, no matter what line of business you're in. And if changes are made, those people are going to leave and not feel great about the guy who is the boss, right? Like, so sure. I mean, I'm sure you can find people that don't have glowing things to say about Bill Belichick, So I'm not too concerned about that as much as it is kind of what the overall trend seems to be. And I'm more worried about what the players think than, perhaps in coworkers who were, fired.
Hold your next up, but just for the record, anybody that ever interned for me, not a single person ever said a bad word. I was the ultimate leader, and I did take people to the next level. You can't find one. So, Carm greater than Flus. Nick, go ahead.
Yeah,
including Hoge. Thank you very much.
No doubt. And
he would never say a bad word about me.
Never. I think Prize Picks is on that level of Mark Carman because
Thank you.
Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. Their easiest and most exciting ways to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, including pros and sharks, you pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Look, football season may be over, but the action on the floor is just heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of the year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app where you can turn your hoops knowledge into some serious cash. And, of course, conference tournaments are here, which means the biggest moments in college basketball are getting closer. Be a part of the action on Prize Picks for both men's and women's college basketball. Actually, on Prize Picks, I actually made just a bet right here. I took 31.5 points over or more than for Caitlin Clark. Combine that with USC's Mackenzie Forbes, more than 14.5 points. So let's win that cash here.
Let's go.
Mark Carman. But first, you got to go to prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO for a first deposit matchup to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CHGO and use the code CHGO. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Shout out to Illinois Jones underlining the obvious. Look how high Karma's lifted Braggs from 0 to hero. Thank you, Illinois Jones. I'm glad that you get it. Hey, shout out to our friends at Chevy and my guy Ray Scarpelli. Best offers of the year during the March Radness sales event. Shout out to my cats, RIP. Phenomenal year. Love you, Boo Booey, and everybody. You too, Hogan, your Badgers. That was pathetic. Make your way to Ray Chevrolet on Route 12 at Fox Lake to join in on the savings. One of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. The perfect tailgate vehicles await at Ray Chevy during Truck Month. For a limited time, they're offering 0% financing for 72 months on new Silverados with over 100 available. 100 available. Come on, man. Get involved. 125 vehicles under $20,000. Seriously, can pricing get more affordable? Everyone loves the word free, especially my guy to my left. I do too. That's what you get this month at Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake. A free oil change. All you need to do is mention CHGO when scheduling that oil change. Start off the new year right and schedule it by April 1st. Visit Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Find new roads. As we bring Hoge back in here, fingers crossed that this is his best Hoge part of the show here. All right. Do you want anything more on Caleb, or you want to go to our next little hit here? I thought it was a lot of interest.
No, let's speed through some other topics here because I think there's enough to talk about. First, let's as we keep trying every once in a while to talk about this number 9 pick instead of what's going on at number 1. Ryan Poles was asked about his approach and what he really more so the talent pool that might be available there at number 9.
Yeah, I like the numbers. I've talked about this when I first got here, but we have different tiers on our draft board. So I like the numbers in terms of the talented players that can get to 9. We're going to do some cool things when we get back, kind of break into teams, and one team's going to talk about what's the tackle position is the best to go after, the wide receiver is the best, the defensive end is the best, and use factual information to kind of spit that out, and we'll have a debate in terms of what's more impactful for a football team, short-term and long-term. So I'm looking forward to that.
Because of the currency you have, is there a consideration to move it back because of also the stack of players there as well?
For sure, yeah. And that'll just kind of play out, and we'll see what the numbers look like, and that'll kind of dictate how far we can move back if we decide to do that.
That's how I'm hearing it.
You guys, you heard. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. He mentioned 3 specific position groups there, right? Offensive tackle, defensive end, and wide receiver, which I think we would all sort of agree that would be the 3 focus points of what the Bears still need there at number 9. And that he shared that little anecdote about how they're going to approach that and get together in groups to kind of go through that and maybe talk positional strength in terms of how many of those guys are available. And just, off the top of my head, pretty deep at wide receiver. I think pretty deep at offensive tackle. I don't know if that depth is going to reach the 3rd round, though, which you got to keep into account. And then defensive end, probably not as deep. So does that bump that positional need up a little bit just based on what else is available in the draft? And then in the last previous segment where he plays part of polls, he did address the topic of just the lack of draft capital, and reiterated what we've been saying here, and that this is a good year. If you're going to have to pick a year where you don't have a lot of picks, this is a good one for that to happen. But they still do have this gap between number 9 and the third round that a lot of talent's going to pass by.
Yeah, and I thought it was also interesting, too, in his response, he talked about the short term versus the long term, and that can really put prospects in different pools there. You may think, hey, for short term, you want a guy that's more pro-ready right now, but maybe at number 9, if you're thinking long term, more of a guy that's a little bit more raw but can develop and maybe not have the impact like the short-term guy might have. So I thought that was interesting as well, how they're also looking at each one of these prospects in terms of when they can produce immediately for this football team, more of the short term immediately, and then long term guys that will maybe grow into that role. So I thought that was interesting as well.
Last thing I had too for you guys before we get to some of the rule stuff, but it was also just interesting to hear Ryan Poles talk about Keenan Allen and Kevin Byard, describing both of those situations as two free agents that they didn't necessarily expect to be available. Teams do that prep work around the league for guys that could potentially be cut loose but aren't currently on the free agent list, and you got to be ready for that stuff. So that's why they pounced early on Kevin Byard, who they think is a great fit in that locker room. Still think he has plenty left. We talked a lot about his durability when the Bears signed him. And then when it came to Keenan Allen, the Bears were looking at other wide receivers. They were having conversations with other wideouts out there that were available. They weren't necessarily expecting Keenan Allen to pop up. And then, on that day where they traded for him, and this was literally, from my understanding, a matter of hours, where they found out that the Chargers weren't going to be able to come to an agreement on an extension with Keenan Allen that would have reduced his cap number. So instead they looked to trade him. All of a sudden the Chargers hit those phones for a possible trade partner, and the Bears pounced quickly. And Poles going on to say, he's just a perfect fit for helping a young quarterback develop and be a quarterback's best friend. So a quick move there by the Bears on two 30-plus-year-old free agents, but two guys that, I think not just on the field but off the field really think are going to be a big benefit in that locker room.
Well, you underlined over and over again, and the Keenan Allen thing is part of it, that he wants to have a soft landing spot structure in place for a rookie quarterback, which wasn't here when Justin got here, which he also talked about. So he's doing everything he can to set Caleb up. I thought it was pretty cool, too, bringing the coaching staff back in, that, he said, he could quote, I know at least talent-wise that we're going to be set up for it. Like he knows what he's going to put out there is going to be good enough in his mind for a quarterback to be successful. And then he also has, confidence in the coaching part. But he's like, basically, I'm doing my part with the players here, and I'm going to trust the coaches that I've hired as well. You want to do rule changes, Hoge, or not just changes, but rules in general?
Yeah, so first of all, a couple things that were passed before we talk about the kickoff rule that I know a lot of people have a lot of questions about. And to our diehards, they were asking me last night, and I know this morning, if I could do a diehard overtime on the kickoff proposal. So I'm going to see if I can do it right after we get off here. But if not, at some point this afternoon, we will do that, I promise. A couple things that were passed, though. One I find super interesting because it kind of flew under the radar, but the Lions proposed something that I think any common fan watching football over the years has wondered. Why do you have to get both of your challenges correct to get a third challenge? Why if you get the first one correct, but then your second one's not correct, well, you got one of them correct. Why do you not get that one back? You're just out of challenges? So the Lions proposed that coaches will now get a third challenge if they just get one of those other two correct. And this passed. So that is a new rule that fans are going to have to be used to watching football games this year. As long as you get one of your challenges correct, you're going to get the opportunity to challenge a third one. And then a small note also, kind of that eye in the sky officiating thing where they can correct things, quickly. They have increased the tolerance or ability for the replay assist to help with roughing the passer calls and intentional grounding. I love this. So basically, if in the heat of the moment, the referee thinks he saw roughing the passer, but then when you get that initial replay right away, you're like, well, wait a minute, he didn't hit him in the head or neck at all. And it was a legal tackle. They're going to be able to correct that right away without a challenge or anything. And I think that'll help fix some of that gray area that we see on those controversial calls. Same thing with intentional grounding, which doesn't always get called correctly live. They can fix that right away. That one's probably a little bit even easier than the roughing the passer stuff. So, and then the other big one, this has more to do with health and safety, but the hip drop tackle has been banned. What's the hip drop tackle? Well, in the last few years, we've seen this tackle rise, and it's basically a lot of times coming from the side or behind. A defender will wrap up a guy and then basically lift their weight off the ground to put that weight on the defender. A lot of times they end up landing, on the offensive player, and then they end up landing on that offensive player's legs. The NFL says that according to their data that they see at least one hip drop tackle per game right now. And they're seeing at least one injury because of the hip drop tackle every single week across the league. So right there, if you take that at face value, that's 18 injuries due to an injury due to a type of tackle that they could just eliminate here by eliminating that tackle. They're admitting this is going to be hard to officiate in real time. It's definitely going to be one of those things that you see come out a few days later when that player gets a fine. So it's not always going to be called, right? It can be called in a game if it's seen correctly by the officials, but it's not always that obvious. And so you might see a lot of fines come later, but they're trying to take this out of the game. They're citing what they did with the quarterback, where you can't land on the quarterback anymore. You can't put your weight on the quarterback. And as controversial as that was when it started, defensive players have adapted. You do not see those types of sacks, those tackles on quarterbacks anymore. And that's the point of it. It might be frustrating for a year or two, but eventually they hope that the defensive players will stop trying to do this hip drop tackle altogether, and there'll be healthier offensive players as a result.
All right. I get the idea, but I hate it. You're playing football.
Can't play defense
People are going to get hurt. I want quarterbacks to be healthy too.
It's a dirty tackle, dude.
I got it. But I don't mind a little bit of dirtiness in my football. This is football. This is not. This ain't my favorite sport that I play. Tennis. This is football. Dirty things are going to happen. People are going to get hurt. And now what's ends up going to happen is there's going to be some huge key tackle in a game that everything should be going the defense's way there, and then they're going to call this, and it's going to have a huge impact on the game, and it's going to suck.
Yeah, I just look at it as defensive players, smaller defensive players, when you're trying to take down a tight end over the middle of the field. Those are big dudes. You take out the legs so that you can, stop the momentum from the player. I think there are ways they can obviously work at trying to stop momentum, but I just feel for the defensive players. They're taking away a lot of target zones for tackles, so it's just another adjustment that they have to make in order for them to play their respective positions.
Don't land on the quarterback. And I get it. You're right, Hoge, that there has been an adjustment, but it still happens and it gets called, and it's come on, man. That is a tackle. That is football. That is what this is. You can't put the toothpaste back in the bottle, but I would have loved to have gone back when this all started. Do you want to play in the NFL? Great. You need to sign this. Football is dangerous. I might not be able to think when I'm done. I might not be able to walk when I'm done. Do you still want to be in here and make the money and play the sport that you love? Yes or no? And every single guy would have signed it. But that's, not what happened. And I get it. I mean, listen, I want people to live full lives too, but people like to do dangerous things. We enjoy living our lives. Not everyone's trying to live to 108. Like Papa Fred, who downed the biggest Sunday in the history of Sundays last night at the Cheesecake Factory without stopping at 98. Shout out my dad for doing that. All right. Hoge, anything else before you do something that we can understand but looks bad on screen? So we apologize, by the way, for the on-screen here, but Adam has sounded great, so I hope everyone's enjoying this hit as much as me and Nick are.
Yeah, well, the podcast listeners will have no idea that it's been skippy. What, you guys want to ask me anything about this kickoff stuff?
Yeah, what is it exactly? What's going on there? I was looking at your breakdown. Tell us what's going on.
And before you answer, I like the new kickoff rule. I am in, so just explain to people the brilliance that could possibly be if the NFL follows
the XFL
and what they created so we can have kickoffs.
Yeah, so this was the XFL that came up with this. Special teams coaches have been studying this, and they're really, including Richard Hightower, the Bears special teams coordinator, really pushing this. They presented it to the competition committee. I think they sold the competition committee on this. A lot of different layers to this. So I'll try to, first of all, instead of going through all the details, because the rules are very convoluted. The biggest of which, though, is the kicker will still be kicking the ball back from the 35-yard line where it's normally kicked from. But instead of the kickoff team starting back there with the kicker and running full speed down the field, they're going to start at the plus 40 on the other end at the 40-yard line, 5 yards away from what's being called the setup zone for the return team. So essentially you're going to have the kickoff team and the return team lined up 5 yards apart to start the play. Ball's going to go in the air. No one can move until that ball hits the ground or is fielded by the returner. And at that point, the play starts. Essentially what this is doing is it's creating instead of a play that's full speed collisions with players running, head to head collision, full steam downfield, it's becoming closer to a line of scrimmage play. And the injury rate as a result that the NFL is saying, and they said this today in the press conference I was in, is going to be more similar to any offensive or defensive play. It's shown in the data that these full-speed kickoff injuries, there's more of them than a typical offensive or defensive play. So the whole point of this is to get more returns back in the game. So there's going to be a bigger penalty for touchback, which is going to encourage kickoff teams to put the ball in the field of play, which will encourage more returns. But the injury rate will be more similar to an offensive or defensive play. And I thought it was interesting that Rich McKay, the head of the competition committee today, specifically mentioned Devin Hester as a reason why kickoffs need to come back into the game, why there needs to be more kickoff returns, because it is an exciting play. And it adds more strategy. I mean, you don't need me to preach on this, but there's a lot of strategy in special teams that the average fan might not necessarily know, but is a huge part of this game and the chess match on game day. And Rich McKay even said, you get rid of kickoffs, like special teams is basically gone. It's down to punting, essentially. I mean, those are his words. I'm paraphrasing, but he said that today. So it's obviously important for them to make this a bigger emphasis. I think it could pass. I think you're going to have a vote either today or tomorrow. There's a sense of urgency. A lot of times you'll see these big controversial rules get tabled until the May meetings. I don't think that's going to happen here because the huge consequence of this rule, if it passes, is personnel and roster decisions. It's not just an emphasis on needing more cover guys to be able to get downfield and tackle, but it's actually going to change the body type of these players. Instead of winning with speed with a head of steam downfield, you're talking about a line of scrimmage play. So now you need longer guys that can stack and shed and get off blocks in a shorter window, more of a telephone booth type of guys. So that could greatly impact roster decisions that are made here in the next few weeks, and especially impact the draft. Also with returners, could boost the stock of returners in the draft. So I don't think anybody in the league wants to table this until after the draft is completed. I think they want a resolution one way or the other in the next 2 days. And I'm almost surprised something didn't happen while we were on the air here, and it still might today.
Couple of extra tidbits on the kickoff rule that Hoge didn't mention because I am new kickoff rule expert as well, apparently, at least in my own mind. And maybe you did say this and I just missed it, but the touchback is to the 35-yard line. So they are incentivizing you to keep the ball out of the end zone. They want the kick return. You boot it in the end zone. All right, the ball's placed at the 35.
Wrong.
Which, right?
Wrong. 40? They amended this rule yesterday. It's going to go to 30 instead of 35. I think there was some concern that the penalty was too much. So they put out an amended rule yesterday. So instead of 35, the 30 will be the touchback. There's one exception, and that is if the ball lands in the landing zone in front of the goal line and then rolls into the end zone and then is downed. Since that would be more on the kick return team making that decision, that would only be a 20-yard line touchback and not the 30. So there is a little wiggle room in there to kind of make – that's part of why the rules here are a little convoluted and confusing. But that is actually what it is. It'll either be the 30 or the 20.
Nothing like a good Sunday amend in the middle of the NCAA tournament. I do not appreciate that, NFL, but thank you for clarifying. And I did hear over the weekend as I was following it that there was some pushback and some cold feet about going through with this, so maybe that is limiting the cold feet. The other part of it, and correct me if there was no amendment on this, to have an onside kick now, it won't be by surprise. You have to tell them, and then they're going to line up like normal, and then you can have your onside kick. But there's no surprise element to it anymore.
Yeah, and this is first of all, one thing about the surprise onside kick. I mean, we're talking about a fraction of a percentage of plays in the entire football season. I mean, you hardly ever see surprise onside kicks. There's a few every year. So, I mean, if that's the one thing that gets kind of screwed in all this, so be it. Right? You're going to get more returns out of it. You're going to see field position change a little bit. That is a minor part of this too, guys. By the way, the NFL is seeing that scoring is down just a tick, not a lot. They're not totally concerned about it, but just by getting more returns back in the game, you're going to increase field position a little bit. You're going to have a higher percentage of scoring a little bit, and it might just correct that tick just a little bit. Now, the one thing I'm a little disappointed in is another rule proposal that was out there that got shot down again because it's been out there a lot these last few years, is the option of basically having a 4th and 20 offensive play instead of an onside kick. And that was also on the table, and that wouldn't have been a complete rule change. It basically would have been giving the teams the option. So 4th and 20 versus trying an onside kick, you could do either one, but I would like that in conjunction with this new, since we're losing the option of a surprise onside kick, it would have been cool to see teams have the option if they're trailing in the, and that was a part of the rule, you had to be trailing, but I think you could have done it in any quarter, not just the 4th. So second quarter you're trailing, you'd be like, you know what, we're going to try this 4th and 20. I don't think a lot of teams would have done that, but it would have been an option. Rich McKay would like to still see this pass in the future. I would like to see it pass in the future. Apparently, with how much controversy and discussion there is about this new kickoff rule, it just didn't really get a lot of momentum this year, and they're hoping that it resurfaces as an option next year.
I like it.
Yeah.
More entertaining.
I just like that kickoff will hopefully become more relevant again. Like, honestly, when I'm in the press box and, like, if I had to go get some food or go to the bathroom real quick, I can go.
Exactly.
But now it can actually become relevant again like it used to back in the day.
Which is why it's a surprise to me. This is a no-brainer. It's a very good idea. You make the play that has become uninteresting interesting, and fans are going to enjoy it. Players are going to enjoy it too, but dudes want to play football. They don't want to stand out there and watch the ball sail into the end zone. I mean, I hope it gets passed, and it sounds – if you had to bet, Adam, do you think it will get passed?
Yeah, I'm based on the feedback I've gotten today, which has been a mixture. I mean, I can kind of sense this uneasiness talking to people about it. I asked Mike Tomlin about it this morning. The one thing that Tomlin, I think there's like this thing about the NFL, regardless of what the rule is. It's just like at some point these guys get squirmy over another change, and like
I think especially what has them nervous is like what I brought up with the roster decisions. Man, are we going to have to like change 10 guys on our roster because of this one rule change? Like, wouldn't it be nice if we just don't have to deal with that? There's a concern, too, about kickers getting hurt. They might be exposed to more tackles with this. You might have to have a second kicker in camp just so they don't get exposed to it in preseason games. Like, there's stuff like that. I say deal with it because I think the benefit outweighs all of that. And I get the sense that these special teams coaches have put so much work into this, not just this year, but in the past couple of years that have led to this. You could tell Mike Tomlin, while he might not be completely on board personally, is respecting the hell out of the special teams coaches that are really pushing hard for this. So, and again, this is only on a one-year basis based on how it's put in the rule that they proposed. So my guess is it does pass. We see it for a year. We see how it goes. Worst thing that happens is they go back the other way. But I like it. I'm all for it. And also, I just want to criticize the Eagles here a little bit for trying to get rid of my favorite nerdiest rule in the rule book, which is the no consequence rule. The first touching, which basically says on a punt return, if the kicking team touches the ball, the return team can pick it up and do whatever they want. They can even fumble, whatever happens. No consequence. It just goes back to the point of first touching. For some reason, the Eagles want to get rid of that rule. It's the greatest rule in sports that no one knows about. And screw them. Screw them. PHLY.
PHLY, yeah. Take that.
I have no idea what you're talking about, but screw them. That's terrible. Hey, I know you got busy things or something to do down there, so get on out of here, Hoge. We'll see you tomorrow, my friend.
All right. Hopefully we can come up with a fix for the video in the meantime. But shout out podcast listeners. Hopefully you still heard me.
Let's get Kevin Fishbane down the case. He can figure this out. We need an elite tech guy.
Northwestern grad. He can figure it out.
And you grad, man. Let's get Fishbane. All right. You want the kickoff rule, right? You just agreed to that. You don't want to have to you don't want to have an easy bathroom break.
No, I'd rather, battle it out and have to. And usually I do watch. It's very rare, but it's just let's get that part of the game relevant again. And if you have to make some changes, and I know change can be scary at times for maybe some coaches that have to do different personnel that you need on the team, like Adam was maybe saying, then, you just have to adjust to it. But at least that part of the game becomes relevant. You can have dynamic returners, get better field position. And it just seems like, okay, it's kickoff. All right, let it happen, be the touchback, and let's start, offense and defense. It's become so routine because that part of the phase, that part of the game is just not, it doesn't mean anything right now. So let's change it up a little bit.
Right. We realize that in making the game safer, we made it incredibly boring. So now let's try to thread the needle here. So good job, NFL. All right, before we get to Super Chats, Drake May Pro Day is coming up on Thursday. Ryan Poles is not going. This is a different situation from 2017 because no one thinks the Bears are screwing this up with Caleb Williams over Drake May, which is, if you went back to 2017, foresight. If you had said, hey, we're not going to talk to Deshaun Watson. We're just gonna talk to Mitch Trubisky and a guy by the name of Patrick Mahomes. Bears fans would have looked at you. Are you sure you don't want to talk to the guy that went 28-2 and won a national championship and beat Alabama over the dude that started 1 year and went 8-5 and lost in the Holiday Bowl? That was completely insane by Ryan Pace. But I am having a little bit of. I want Ryan Poles to go see a guy who's going to go in the top 3 as a quarterback just to make 1,000% certain there's something that he perhaps has missed. It just seems like worth his time to be there, but for whatever reason, he's not going.
I don't have as big of an issue with it, Mark. We know Ryan Poles is a very busy man. There are other pro days that will be going on during that March 28th UNC pro day. I think the whole Big 12 is having their pro day March 27th through the 30th. But as long as he's got good intentions of being somewhere else and being proactive with it, and that's where he deems is more important than seeing a guy like Drake May, especially because that answer that he gave asking about what are you guys thinking you're going to do with that number 1 overall pick, he said he didn't know, but he smiled. He did have a smile to it because I think, like everyone else, they think they're going to take Caleb Williams. So why not waste the time, but why go to a pro day for a quarterback that you're not going to take when you could be somewhere else using your time proactively, scouting other players that you may take at 9, or even like Zach Frazier, West Virginia, being the Big 12. That's a center that they could possibly look at if they want to go that route. So as long as he has got good intentions, Mark, I think it doesn't bother me.
Okay, I get you can just say it's the days and when he's available, but they are going to see Jaden Daniels. They are doing their due diligence. Dan Orlovsky, of course, thinks that Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the draft. Maybe there's a 1/10 of 1% of Ryan Poles that thinks that that's possible too, although it seems highly, highly unlikely at this point. I don't know. I would just prefer that Poles was going. Not going to lose sleep over it. And I saw somebody in the chat saying that the Bears were lucky they didn't see Watson. Yes, as it turned out.
Yeah.
But no, they
Not the
got it
time.
wrong. It was one of the worst moments in the franchise's history. Let's be real here. Okay. Now, there was a coach's photo over the weekend. And Matt Eberflus, who we all want to see as much as possible, especially in photos when he can stick his chest out, for whatever reason, he wasn't there. It was the missing Flus, man. This was in the missing Flus formation. There are all the coaches, Smiling and Dan Campbelling, and Jim Harbaugh somehow thought he deserved to be in the middle and not in the corner. That guy's already annoying me back in the league. But no Flus.
Yeah, no Flus, and you got little clicks here like the Shanahan, McVay, and LaFleur over there, and like their little click. What is Eberflus doing that he can't be in this picture right now, Mark? Like, what do you think he's doing?
I assume that, he was having some connecting conversation somewhere with the next great Bears player and doing things that only the Flus can do. But I still would have loved to have seen my Flus standing next to someone looking pretty.
I would have liked to, just kind
awkward.
of flexing and then, almost overshadowing all the other coaches because, one, he's got the new look. The dude lifts. I think he was lifting. Getting a morning lift while the coaches were taking pictures. Wouldn't surprise me.
Scottish Bear says he was golfing. Any answers are encouraged in the chat. Also, by the way, if you are new to the channel, hit the like button right now. Help us grow the channel that way. And then also hit the subscribe button on YouTube as we make our push to 53,000. CHGO Bears is here Monday through Friday at noon religiously. And also during the season, pre and post on whatever day the Bears play. Also for breaking news, hit that subscribe button, turn your notifications on so you know when we're on as we try to make our way to 53,000, currently sitting at
we're getting
almost
there.
52.7. So maybe we can hit 52.7 by the end of the show. If you are new, we appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. And if you want to be an elite CHGO supporter, take that link, send it to a friend, and demand that they subscribe because they're Bears fans too. All right. Couple things, little housekeeping. As you see today, my hair looks amazing. I'd like to shout out the great Sheena at Midtown, where I did my Saturday. I did the yoga basic for those of us who can barely touch their waist, let alone their toes. I did that, and then I did a little swim, and then I was like, you know what?
Oof.
Need a little cut.
Looking fresh.
And Sheena was amazing. So I am super excited about. I think I actually might have found my a hair person.
That's important, Mark. As someone who does have a hair person, I actually got my hair cut on yesterday. So.
But not at Midtown. Not after a sweet.
It was after my yoga that I did.
Yeah.
But look.
Shout out Sheena, and shout out to a couple new diehards coming in here. My guy Jason with the Sweet J.
Yep, always.
Perhaps likes to smoke
or
used to,
like the guy in the hostel that was, rolling up joints when I was in. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He was down in the basement rolling up J's, and then he went to go smoke them.
Here's to you, Jason, my man. And Cliff. Not Kingsbury. Not Robinson, as MJ dominated in 92 with the head shrug, with the hand thing. But just A cliff for all seasons.
Good Cliff.
A cliffhanger.
Ooh.
Cliff the man. Cliff is in. Cliff's a diehard. Become a diehard. Go to allchgo.com. Free T-shirt when you join. Everything going on in the draft that Nick keeps on adding on to. Hoge keeps on adding to. Our big board behind the old diehard paywall, if you will. And all our events, discounts to that. Tons of them coming up, including the draft. You get a discount if you want to come to our draft party.
Come on.
For Gregory P. Braggs, April 25th and 26th. Night 1 is trending towards the sellout. Night 2, we got Gary Fensick in the house. Gary's awesome, easy to talk to.
He'll work for the Bears one day.
He should be working for the Bears now. It'd be a good hire. Meet and greet. And if you want to, I believe there's an option in there to get an autograph from Gary as well. But we'll see you out at Joe's on Weed Street, courtesy of our friends at Circa Sports Illinois. Thank you to our friends at Circa, by the way, Casa Azul as well.
We get all the Discord stuff too for your fans. And we've been in the Discord lately at USC's Pro Day. Adam Hoge's thinking when he gets time to talk about those kickoff rules. So all the great perks that you get when you become a diehard, those exclusive things that you just can't get anywhere else. So if you haven't joined the team yet, now's a great time because it's draft season and it's going to be a lot of great content coming out.
All right, to the super chats.
Our first super chat of the day is a brand new diehard.
Oh,
so right
let's
on cue,
freaking
Boss
go.
Haas, $20 super chat. Great Monday, great people. Signed up to be a diehard. Love the show. Keep up the great work. Bear down.
Thank you, Boss Haas.
You are the boss.
Boss Haas. Thank you very much. Cliff is in. Oh, my guy,
This
Cliff.
is the super chat you just shouted out.
The cliffhanger, Cliff Nash. My guy.
Love it.
Let's think. I mean, better point guard than Nash himself, 2-time MVP. Cliff, thank you so much, Cliff. Appreciate
High
you.
praise right there. We got a super chat from Love Owns Us.
This is our
now.
Packers fan that's been super chatting us frequently.
So $4.99. Did you guys see that Carman Vitale said the Packers are the clear favorites for the NFC North because our young team led by Jordan Love is incredible? GPG, go Pack, go.
Oh, you don't need to say that last part.
I'm sorry.
Did she actually say that?
I don't know if Carmen said that, and if she did, it's because she's a great reporter and she's entitled to her opinion. But we don't believe you. Love owns us now, and thank you for the money because we'll take it. You're the man. Matt W, $4.99. With the new rule change, I'm finding that it's hard to take a defender in the top 10 anymore. Just stack the offense. That's where the NFL is headed now.
Is he talking about the drop tackle rule with the new rule change? I'm finding it hard to take a defender. Look, I mean, the Bears, they could use another edge rusher, though, so I wouldn't rule out, a guy in the top 10 if the Bears feel like he's a difference maker there. But I get it. Offense is fun.
I mean, Matt, they paid nearly $30 million for Montez Sweat. They paid nearly $20 million for Tremaine Edmonds, thank you. They didn't pay as much for Jack Sanborn, unfortunately. Yeah. Sanborn deserves all the money, but they paid Jalen Johnson a ton of money. You still need defense.
Kevin Byard, money.
Kevin Byard got it. That was a fair deal, not over the top. Hey, excuse me, the Duke. Didn't mean to cough on you, Duke. Love you, Duke. 1999. You're my guy. You know this. Should I get a Mercedes AMG GT or a BMW M8? I love you, Duke. I'm really struggling on the decision. Can we get a poll to help me decide? How about, I don't know if we're going to do a poll right now because it's late in the show, Duke, but, let's go 1 for AMG Mercedes GT or 2 for BMW M8 for the Duke. 1 for AMG GT Mercedes, 2 for BMW M8. You got to vote on that, Nick?
I think either one sounds really nice. I'll go the AMG GT. What about you?
I've been in the fancy BMW SUV, and it was cool. It had all the lights going on and stuff.
Oh, that must be nice when you're the Duke.
Yeah,
you have those options.
My Duke, I don't think you can go wrong, which is why you're asking us. I recommend a Honda Civic, or
Honda Accord. It's not bad either.
Actually, call up our guys at Ray.
You could probably get 10 of those. Yeah,
get a muscle car from Ray. Go to Ray CDJR. Yeah. Come on, enough with this. Whatever you're doing over there. Alex Ammerling, $2. I am so ready for Caleb to be a Bear. So is Ryan Poles, Alex.
Or we.
Let's
go.
It's coming. Go ahead.
Craig Leach with the $20 super chat. Hoge using potato Wi-Fi. Happy Mondays, CHGO.
That was a bad Wi-Fi by Hoge.
Bad NFL.
Just a bit,
They upgrade everything, but the Wi-Fi, man.
I don't know if we can fully blame Hoge for what's going on at the Orlando NFL owner meetings Wi-Fi, but I think it's a good choice. It was Hoge's fault. $10 from Dan Evans. So the new kickoff rule means the onside kick is pretty much that. Not really, Dan. They're just going to tell you that it's an onside kick, just like they do every time when they line up.
Sure.
And, I mean, it'll be no surprise like it's always been. So don't worry about that part.
Yeah. Kenny S. with a $4.99 super chat. Will the kickoff change increase the odds of Velus making the roster? Kickoff returner would become a bigger deal if the new kickoff passes. Theoretically, I think yes, but they also brought Dante Pettis back too. And, they do very similar things in terms of the return game. So
you would have more time to catch the ball now instead of fumbling.
That's true, yeah.
So maybe that would take some of the pressure off a little.
That's a good point. If I'm Velus Jones Jr., I'm very shaky on my status with this team moving forward.
I mean, there's no value for Velus, so you're either cutting him or keeping him on the roster.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see Velus go through training camp, and we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Ryan Weiss, $20. Thank you, Ryan. Here's 20 because CHGO rocks, but maybe we could donate the $20 to the Detroit Lions. Help make Don Burr and Lions guy team actually relevant in the NFL for once. Up to you guys. Much love. Ryan trying to dunk on Detroit, which is sweet. But they were in the NFC Championship game and should have gone to the Super Bowl, and part of us would love to be the Lions right now, if we're being honest. Right, Ryan? I know it's painful.
Bears are going to dethrone them. It's happening.
Perfect. That was their peak, and it was pathetic, and they ended it terribly, and it was very Lions-esque.
Take that. We have Armando with the $1.99 super chat. Why didn't Nick join Hostile Guy? There's a lot of reasons why. But, yeah. I hope not to be in that situation again unless... No, I just don't want to be in that situation again, actually. So there's the answer to that.
Yeah, I mean, if I was there and Hostile Guy was firing it up and said, Carm, get on in here, and it was from our fine sponsor, Sunnyside.
Okay, that's true, yeah. Sunnyside, and...
It would have been a tough call. Depending on
there was a burrito truck outside too, so the munch. I mean, it would have been I messed up. That's what I did.
You would have been set up, man.
Yeah.
You and Hostile Guy could have been buddies.
Damn it,
Hostile Guy, my guy. Any more?
Nope.
That is it. All right.
We'll have one more for the Packers fan, but thank you, Packers fan. But we like Caleb Williams here.
Being here.
We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody who supports the show. One other piece of business: Ian Rappaport did report today that the Commanders have put in a request to interview Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham. Sources say is his tweet. So their executive search is rolling too. He was a top candidate last year and should be again this year.
It's only a matter of time before he's a GM.
I mean, that would, in theory, get the Bears more draft picks this year. So the timing of that wouldn't necessarily, or would it be next year at this point? I'm not sure.
I think, next.
It probably would be next year at this point. Regardless, you'd get draft picks for it. The Bears have expected Ian Cunningham to get a general manager job for a long time.
But even Jeff King, right, was interviewing for the Chargers GM spot earlier this cycle. So Bears have a lot of people that are in the higher ups that are being revered and at least getting interviews for other potential jobs. So it's bound to happen at some point.
Good luck to Ian Cunningham, but Ian wants to be a Bear forever. I can just feel it. He's got a big smile on his face. He was with Poles in Indy. He looked good. He doesn't need to go anywhere.
Mm-hmm. One more super chat here, guys. Brendan Henderson, $5. Hip drop tackles banned in favor of player safety, but hey, let's push for that extra game in the season.
Yeah.
Hashtag hypocrites.
No doubt, Brendan. No freaking doubt. Let's play on Thursdays. Let's play on Saturdays. Let's consider Fridays. Let's play Sunday. Let's play Monday. Let's get rid of the hip. Let's go to and get rid of the hip drop tackle so we can have more controversy. You know what I would like? I would like an old school common sense official to be added to replay review. And I'm offering myself up as an option for that job. Common sense. Was it a catch? Was it not a catch? Should that be a penalty? Should it not be a penalty? I could do a great job for you, NFL. I'd be happy to sit there. We'd have to work it out that I could, also tweet about the Bears and do the post-game show because there's no way I would ever leave CHGO. But I am more than willing to do that gig for you. Common sense official with the spirit of old school football in mind and not dragging things out forever as you guys try to figure out if it was a catch or if it wasn't a catch or anything else that takes forever.
Hey, that makes sense to me because I feel like some of these replays you watch are like, dude, he got both feet down. He caught the ball. Like, what else do you want this receiver to do?
Did he make a football move?
We're overcomplicating what should be sometimes just a very simple decision.
Right. Chop, chop. Moving along. 3-hour TV window. Let's keep it real. Of course, the NFL is king, and
They
they're
like
probably,
money.
Yeah, doing things correctly enough that what I'm saying doesn't matter. Okay. Thanks to Adam Hoge. Thank you to
Hoge, yep.
upper management for supporting us to go down to Orlando and cover
coverage,
the owners' meetings like we're covering everything else. There is no better place for your full Bears coverage than right here at CHGO Bears. So we appreciate all the support. On your way out today, please hit that subscribe button. If you have not already, we greatly appreciate it. Me and Nick and Braggs are back tomorrow.
See.
With Hoge down in Orlando. Hoge back on Wednesday. And
keep it rolling.
We're one day closer to Caleb Williams being a Bear. I feel more and more people getting on the train.
Join us.
Choo-choo. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you in the Discord. I'll sing you out. Sing you out. I got to sing us out. Let's.
You try singing the super chat?
Well, Atlas 52.
We just got one more.
I don't know if I can sing a super chat. I think
it was worth a shot.
I think the D-line is the biggest need in terms of winning, but don't care and hope they pick a wide receiver or offensive line. Anyway, winning isn't the priority. It's developing Caleb Williams.
I like that super chat. I like offense. I like developing Caleb Williams. I like Carm thinking about what he's going to sing about, right?
Caleb, come and go. You're a Bear. We all know. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Saying goodbye. CHGO.
We all silly like the mayor.